Check me out. Look, I know perfect timing feels like I'm too late. And I know I'm still great in spite of my mistakes. You know it's authentic every rhyme I say.
Here we go. What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm alright.
What day is it?
Gosh, tired. It's Tuesday, day after Memorial Day. Had a long weekend. Did a lot. I told y'all about the bike ride that she was doing in the last episode. So yeah, just want to give y'all a quick update. Shout out to everybody that was following along the journey through Major Knox Adventures Instagram. Actually, in this conversation, in this episode, we're going to be replaying the live interview that we did during the adventure. But in that live interview, Daniela, she actually went last.
I did.
So, wanted to just get an opportunity to start with her experience, and then just allow. She's going to share some like next steps. I'm saying she's going to do this, like she can't like talk through this. It's like kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, we're here.
Hi, we're back. What a weekend, man. The weather.
Before we get started, I definitely want to get something to drink. I'm like, as I mentioned, I'm a little tired, and we have a lot that we need to be doing tonight. So I'm gonna crack open this all-out stout. Has a bit of coffee notes, some chocolate notes to it. Definitely one of my favorites. Plus, I didn't really cool down. I didn't put the beers in the cooler, so it's a little warm. But if you like stouts, you know this is like perfect temperature. So sorry to cut you off. Gotta get that in. Athletic Run.
Listen, I'm a huge fan. Tonight I'm only on water. Y'all will learn why in a little bit. Don't get any ideas. But yeah, the weather just, I have learned that I can be an all-weather rider if I am in a situation where I'm in the right company and like focused. I've also learned that, water resistant is not the equivalent of waterproof, especially when you're like 6 hours into the rain, it seems.
Yeah.
So, when you're buying your cycling gear and you think you're going to be riding in all weather terrain, do yourself a solid, spend that extra money, get yourself that waterproof stuff.
Recognizing, even with that, like, as she's talking, I'm like, damn, here we go, talking about accessibility, right?
Yeah, totally.
I recognize that people are like, damn, I can't afford it. Maybe it's not your time in life to be going 6 hours on a bike ride. You just need to knock it down for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours when you know you're going to get in and out. Because that, like, hard rain, hard cold weather, temperature gear is really expensive. So you can buy a trainer for that. So recognizing that accessibility piece, definitely wanted to make sure I stopped you there for a second.
But also, if you're willing to ride in unusual outfits for the sake of being outdoors, you can get yourself like rain suits that are really affordable, not meant for like any specific cycling type of clothing, but it is like clothing that will go over your cycling gear, that will keep you dry, and that will let you be outside for an affordable price. So one of our cyclists wound up, in preparation, because here's this trick. We dove right into this and we didn't start from the beginning. But some of the riders were really ready for the weather, but ultimately, regardless of how ready for the weather we were, the amount of downpour that we got on the first day and the second day was really something that most cyclists, I don't think, would like put up with for the extended amount of period that we were riding in.
Right.
And you're gonna get to hear the effects of what that weather had on each of us as you'll hear the recording of our interview. But ultimately, There are ways, that are, your traditional cycling outfits that will get you through. Then there's your non-traditional solutions that will get you to be where you want to be when you want to be out. And so one of our cyclists did find like these super affordable rain suits, maybe at Walmart, I believe. I'm not necessarily sure where, but ultimately you'll see them in the pictures. They look like we're wearing obviously non-traditional cycling clothes, but it got us through.
Yep, got folks through. But speaking of getting through, for people that are just tuning into this, can you give a quick recap on exactly what the adventure was?
Absolutely. So Major Knox Adventures was hosting, which is founded by Keshia Roberson, based here in DC, a coach that we've interviewed before. She's had 2 interviews with Perfect Timing in the past, one where we were talking about Keshia as an athlete at large, and another one where we were talking about this 1928 Legacy Tour hosted by Major Knox Adventures. And the 1928 Legacy Tour is a tour that honors the legacy of 5 Black women who did this same bike ride in 1928, leaving from Harlem to DC. And it was, an idea that Keshia had as a result of being exposed to listening to things about athletics and about Black history, and ultimately she had this incredible idea to put this together and did a call for cyclists who were interested in joining. And it was, it received a lot of love.
Right.
And ultimately there were 5 of us who were coming under the umbrella of Major Knox, and we were joined on the first day by 3 queens of Queens Rule Together from Philadelphia for the route.
So speaking about that first day, and definitely want to make sure we talk about that quite a bit, because that was like your only full day, right?
That's right.
So can you just talk about what that experience was like for you?
Sure. So it was magical. I mean, in all honesty, when you're riding for purpose and in a values-aligned way, I was focused on the excitement of the challenge, but I was also focused on why we were there. I was focused on the sisterhood, on the individuals that were with me in this journey, and just getting to know each other, as we progress throughout the ride. And by getting to know each other, I mean getting to know each other as cyclists. All of us live in different parts of the East Coast. You have a few of us that are huddled in DC, but we had a rider from Rhode Island. We had a rider from Delaware, and as I mentioned, we had several of the queens who joined us from the Philadelphia area. So, we didn't really have a chance to really train together the whole time. There was a lot of solo training building up to this moment. And the first day was really interesting, getting to know our personalities as cyclists, getting to see how we navigate, rough terrain, high traffic spaces, and just like bringing back and finding that cohesive language with which we could all communicate with. We all ride differently in the city. We all ride differently in the road, depending on who is teaching us how to do these things. We have different habits that we develop. It was really interesting in the first at least 20 miles to begin to really see us come together in how we call things and how we, keep ourselves safe on the road. Okay.
So thinking about like that ride, I know I had some favorite parts on day 1, but like what was the favorite part for you on day 1?
Man, there were several favorites. There wasn't just one. Setting our intentions in the morning before kicking off was definitely a moment of like grounding and remembering what we're there for, remembering and honoring that we are there for legacy and to, ride and bring history back in the process. I think some of my favorite parts, there's a part of New Jersey once you cross over and you're leaving Harlem, where you are, well, first of all, you cross the bridge, and crossing the bridge is stunning. Like, you are looking at New Jersey and looking at the city right behind you, and you're getting to see the full panoramic of, Manhattan, the river, and New Jersey. And once you cross over the river, you're riding through into the Weehawken, Hoboken area. And we were doing that all along the actual river itself. And it's just like the smell of the water, obviously the view of the panoramic of Manhattan. And it was just super beautiful and very romantic. And then another peak of mine was, and I didn't think that I would, I was at first worried about this leg of the route, but there's a light gravel or small gravel trail that we did in New Jersey, and the name of the trail is one that I don't remember right now. Do you recall?
Don't remember, not right now.
In any case, we're riding on the trail, on the water, traffic uninterrupted, minus several intersections on the path with traffic. But you are just riding with the water and the trees, and at that time was the beginning of the downpour. And we didn't know it at that moment, but it would last the entirety of the rest of the ride.
For like the next 2 days, not only
for the next 2 days.
The day.
So that first day, that path in New Jersey was stunning. The views of Manhattan were stunning. But also coming into Philadelphia and getting to see that Philly skyline was incredible. And at that point, once we made it into the city and finished, we were almost at 122 miles.
I love that. And sorry for the background noise if you hear in the back. July 4th is coming near, so people have their fireworks. So get used to this for the next few episodes. If you live in the city, you know what I'm talking about.
That's right.
So that was your favorite part. What could you have done without in day one?
What could I have done without? I would start by saying the rain and the cold. I personally did not foresee the temperatures dropping as much as they did, but also I think one of the things that I didn't realize is that being wet for so long, as the temperature slowly dropped, with like us trying to, keep pace, it just felt colder than it actually was. My body cooled down for being so many hours on the bike. It cooled down more than I was ready for. And because we were so wet, there was nothing that I could really wear that would keep me warm. So I think I could do without feeling cold. I think I could manage the rain, but as the temperatures were dropping into the lower 50s, that made being wet very, very hard. And your feet are wet. Everything's wet. There's nothing that's dry.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So wrap up day one. Let's talk about going into day two. What was that like for you?
Man, going into day two after the rain, I think we made it to where we were going to be sleeping at around 11, and our time to be together and get started was 5:30, 6 a.m. And it poured the entire night. I have to admit that I had like a serious sense of doubt whether I would be able to make another full day of rain. For another 100 miles, and not only another 100 miles, but knowing that the last 50 or 40 of those 100 were going to be the beginning of the most challenging part of the ride.
And why was it the talk us through that first leg of the ride?
So the first leg of the ride is leaving West Philly and starting to head south. And we were going through the city onto a path, onto a bridge that led us to a southern exit of the city so that we could ride towards Baltimore. And as we're getting off of that bridge, or that ramp and bridge, and then into some neighborhoods to then head south in, I don't remember the name of the street at the moment. You know, Philly is full of trolleys, which means that the city is within pavement, has embedded a lot of rails. And it was downpouring when we started riding. We had gone through several deep puddles already within the first 30 minutes of being on the bike, and reached a point where we were crossing an intersection where there was as well an intersection of rails. For me, traditionally, I've learned over time how to cross rails, but at that point, my front wheel went over one of the rails, my rear wheel caught the rails, and I went head down into one of the rails and dented my helmet. At the same time, 2 riders saw me fall. The rider behind me also went down, but didn't have a direct head impact like I did. And at that point, I talked to the riders and I got off the bike, just double checked my body, no broken clavicle, no broken elbow, no broken anything, but it was the first time that my head literally bounced on the metal and on the ground at large. So I asked them to call support, put my bike, got off the road immediately. That's the number one thing. And like, you know, it's funny because as I was like checking myself and my friends, you know, Keshia was calling Brianna, you know, we were calling support. I asked them to call support to come and pick me up because at that point, once I hit my head, I knew that I needed to stop riding for a moment, even if that meant, you know, missing the, you know, the rest of the first 20 to 25 miles of the day. And support came, and I think, you know, at that point I was like, I need them to feel focused and feel the energy of like staying focused through this rain, which had already been challenging the day prior. And I think that we all had different versions of doubt at that point with the level of rain, but it's even harder when you're a team of 5 to lose any team member, really. Right. Just kind of throws people off a little bit. And I was like, I need you all to keep riding, stay focused. One of the support vehicles got there, Janine, who was also going to be a rider with us, who got injured in the process of training, and instead of participating in the ride as a result of injury, was thankfully there as support and was amazing. So, you know, the girls kept riding that morning, and our next stopping point was going to be in Delaware. Mm-hmm. So I got in the car. All of support was aware of what was going on. We are fortunate to have Dr. Brianna Hurt with us, who also like seriously checked me out. There was an additional part to the day before where I also had to borrow Brianna's bike, so we knew that we had like some bike mechanics pieces that needed to get sorted out. And it was just one of those things where it was like, keep rolling and we will figure it out at the next stop, or we were stopping at one of the riders' homes and were able to really come together, relax, co-think, and like process some of the things that had gone on. And so we made it to the first stop. Yeah. Where we wound up having like a little bit of an extended stay, right, and like a lot of the magic that you're going to be hearing of the interviews that are ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that breakdown. And speaking about those interviews, again, that's what you're going to be hearing. But wanted to give Daniela an opportunity to speak a little bit through what she experienced. So I won't keep y'all too much longer for this extended intro, but I am curious, knowing that you couldn't finish the complete journey, like what was it like to essentially get to the point where you said, I'm not going to do this anymore? What was that like for you?
It was incredibly difficult to feel so physically ready and so strong to tackle the full length of the ride with like my teammates. And in all honesty, it took really trusting my board of directors, as I'd like to call it, which is a term that I think I learned from you, in just asking, you know, like, do you think this is the right thing to do? And I think it wasn't just asking, do you think this is the right thing to do? I thought that I could keep riding, and I did get back on my bike, and I rode an additional 20 miles after that long pause in Delaware, and I felt like I could do it. And as I was in the process of riding, especially as we were getting closer to the end of the 20, I was just like, maybe the safer thing for me to do here is to get off the bike, really rest, and try to be strong to finish this journey with them tomorrow, which was going to be the last day where we would ride from Baltimore to DC. And once I decided to fully get off the bike and just be in the support vehicle as the girls were tackling the ride, I have to say, like, I had a whirlwind of like mental and emotional responses to making that decision. From I should be out there riding with them, I know that my body can do it, to I don't really know what is happening to my body. I'm like super tired. I'm having these on and off headaches. Everything hurts, and I don't actually think I can tackle hills, which is the section that they were going to be doing, feeling the way that I'm feeling. So I think it was partially just talking to all of you and really feeling centered and knowing that I needed to be healthy for other events that are really important for me that are coming down the pike this year. And then kind of, at least on Saturday, feeling really confident that giving my body that rest would allow me to ride the next day. The minute I opened my eyes on Sunday morning, I had an immense amount of neck pain, a very intense headache. I couldn't really turn my head very much, and I knew the minute I opened my eyes that I couldn't ride.
I keep saying, obviously everybody had their own challenges during the ride, but I feel like Daniela, she did one of the most impressive things during the ride, just because anybody that, you know, trains up for something like that, you have that kind of injury, especially a head injury where it's not as apparent, to get to the point where you're like, hey, I'm strong enough to do this, but I'm stronger to make a decision to say I can't do this anymore because of my health. So I definitely continuing to just commend her for like making that decision, and just, you know, really happy that you did. And I'm, as I continue to say, just looking forward to seeing you continue to grow and progress through the rest of the training and the other events that you have coming down the pipe for 2021.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and I think I felt even more validated, as sad as it sounds, but as true as it sounds. You know, yesterday, which was Memorial Day, was Monday, I felt not well still. And due to feeling off, calling into the board of directors again, I went to the emergency room at a hospital here in DC where it was confirmed that I had a concussion, and had I kept riding, you know, the side effects of this would last even longer. So now I'm at a place where, you know, it all kind of comes full circle, and I couldn't be more grateful. But brains are tricky. If you do have an impact to the head, remember that you cannot continue wearing the helmet that you had the impact in. And I will say again, had I not been wearing a helmet, I probably don't know whether I would be able to be sharing the story, because hitting metal is still hitting metal. And strongly recommend that you do actually spend money on a helmet. While accessibility is always a conversation that we're sensitive to, helmets are a priority when you're riding a bicycle, when you're on anything that moves on wheels. You must protect your full body and wear a helmet, for sure.
I love that. Well, there's so much we can get into with this conversation. Definitely want to make sure we have opportunity for Daniela to continue to share that story at a later time. But speaking of not only her sharing the story, again, in this next clip, in these next interviews, during this extended period that we were talking about, we had an hour to really just interview everybody that was riding. So you're going to hear 5 to 10 minute clips, essentially, of all the riders, and just really raw conversations. Like, none of this was planned. As the interview was going on, I'm thinking of questions just like I did right now. But even at a later date, Daniela is going to talk to them, and I'm going to turn it over and let her share what's coming up next with that.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to be the human being that gets to interview the cyclists of the 1928 Legacy Tour. We'll be releasing one episode at a time, or, much like the one that you're going to listen, clips, all of them put together so that the story's cohesive. We're still making that producer executive decision. It is my responsibility to make that decision. Thank you, friends.
To be determined.
TBD. But I'm super excited to be interviewing the riders. We're all athletes of, really strong and interesting backgrounds, and I cannot wait for you to get to know the faces of the 1928 Legacy Tour.
All right. Speaking of getting to know the faces, you just got to know my face really up close. We don't have anybody behind the camera, so I was like, let me make sure this camera is still rolling, because this is some really good stuff. And I would love to have a conversation again, but I didn't want to have to do this all over again. So I'm really happy that it's still rolling.
This is part of the DIY part of this life.
This is definitely part of the DIY. Speaking of the DIY part, we don't have the microphone, so again, if the quality of the audio is bad, again, appreciate y'all for figuring it out and just tapping in and listening to what we have going on. Since we were out on the road, we didn't have the microphones, we didn't have any of those things, and we wanted to keep it consistent with what you're going to hear from what you heard in the live. But again, going back to the getting to know the faces part, hope you enjoy the next hour or so, right, of the conversations that we're having with the riders, and look forward to sharing more.
I have to add, this audio that you're going to be hearing is caught at a really special moment of the ride where we really needed to come together. As you all heard, I had just had my accident. The riders had come back from probably some of the toughest miles they had done after losing a rider and riding in really cold and wet temperatures. Where we also knew that we needed to find a mechanic to service our bikes because the gravel had just consumed the brakes on the majority of the bikes. Yeah. So you're gonna catch us at a real raw time, like Mike said. Enjoy diving into the experience of at least day 2 of the 1928 Legacy Tour, when all things were very uncertain, and I'm excited to share with you the success of the story with all the riders to come. Yeah,
promise we're going to transition, but as she said that, I want to make sure we highlight and recognize our partners for the podcast. Shout out to Walls Caps. If y'all saw the Perfect Time of Multisport caps, all the riders had them, all the riders were gifted them. So shout out to Walls Caps for hooking us up with those. Shout out to Philly Bike Expo. We did a really amazing takeover. If you have an opportunity, go to their Instagram page at Philly Bike Expo to see the live coverage of the finale of the Major Knox Adventure 1928 Legacy Tour. Shout out to Aftershocks. Shout out to, of course, Athletic Brewing and Urban Athletic Club. And with that, shout out to Mike Bikes in Chester, PA. He came through. He hit him up from KRC. He was like, yo, we need some support. He came through. He reached out to his network. Mike, he loaded up his car, loaded up his van, fixed everybody's bike for a really, really affordable price. Not going to get into those details, but definitely make sure you hit him up. If you're in the Pennsylvania area, Delaware, need anything, he is solid.
Last bit, let's remember that Major Knox is raising funds for Gearing Up DC,
Yes.
which is an organization that trains youth to learn about cycling, to learn about mechanics, that taught me my bike mechanics by having youth teach me how to fix my bike. And when I've gone to shops in the city, I go to shops where I know that Gearing Up youth are working at. What I love about working with them and taking my bikes to them is that they take the time to sit down with me and explain what's been repaired, how and why. And, you know, I'm appreciative of the way the knowledge is instilled in them, and I'm grateful of the way that they instill the knowledge in me. So let's raise some funds for Gearing Up.
All right. And until then, enjoy the rest of the episode. Look forward to seeing you all next time.
See you soon.
Peace.
Peace.
Cool.
All right. Well, hello. Welcome, everybody. Recognize that people may not be joining at this very second, but welcome if you join at a later time. So, as you know, we're doing the Major Knox Adventure 1928 Legacy Tour. I got that right. I want to make sure I'm using the right language.
You are.
All right. So, we're part of the 1928 Legacy Tour and have had a little bit of a hiccup this morning. So, wanted to take advantage and just really have an opportunity for you all to learn a bit more about everybody that's riding and have a supporter to come in to share their story. But even before we get into that, definitely want to shout out my guy, Rob. Rob, real quick, drop your Instagram name so people can know.
Oh, yes. And if you could hear, raise a hand to make sure our sound is good.
Yes. Please, even throughout this conversation, especially that is the benefit of being here live, you get to be able to engage with us, right? And what does that mean? You get to ask questions, and this is just not us talking to you, and this is me talking through you, essentially. So please make sure you engage with us in this way. So we're here in Delaware.
We are in Delaware, day 2.
How you feeling?
I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel hopeful. I don't know where it's coming from.
Okay.
Optimistic is the word. But yeah, I'm tired, like sleepy tired, but I'm good.
All right. So as a refresher, I always like to make sure we go back to just refresh people on what's going on, like what they're seeing this on stories, they're seeing this, their friends share, and they're like, I'll just follow along, cool, it seems like something dope. What's happening here?
Yeah, so we are celebrating the legacy of 5 Black women who in 1928 embarked on a tour for the love of the great out of doors, as they like to say, where they biked 250 miles in 3 days from Harlem to DC. So we are recreating our version of that. One of the things they said when they got to DC is they challenged other women to do the same ride in less time. And so we figured 93 years later, inspired by their story, we're going to go out and do our own version of the tour. And so while we're in the middle of doing that, we have a virtual challenge going on, which there is still time to sign up. You have until June 6th to just sign up. You can bike 250 miles just as they did. You can run or walk 25 to 50 miles. And you can also drop donations for Gearing Up Bicycles, which is a bike shop in DC, who we're raising money for right now. Their work is centered around training up the next generation of bike mechanics.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they do amazing work. They've been so helpful with me and my bike through all of the different things that I've done. They've taught me so much, and they do a lot of great work in the community. So we want to support them because we know that the pandemic has been very hard for a lot of nonprofits.
I love that. So people, again, as they come back and look at this, or if they want to check out their Instagram name, where can they find the information to follow them or just donate to Gearing Up DC?
That is actually the name, at Gearing Up DC.
Set that up.
So shout out to please give them a follow if you're in the DC area. They're the only DC nonprofit bike shop. They sell refurbished bikes. So a lot of times people will donate old bikes. They will rebuild them and then sell them. So there's been a lot of folks who have gotten their introduction to cycling through one of the bikes that they sold. They also do youth nights on Friday nights. And they used to do a all women's shop night where you can come in and women can work on their bikes and learn different things about their bikes. And I'm sure they're going to be getting back to that soon.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And again, as I said this, and I'm going to say it again, if you have questions, you have comments, you have, just some kudos, whatever is on your mind, please make sure you throw that in the chat. We have Rob monitoring. Right now, Rob's taking pictures, so I'm looking forward to this. This is definitely going on my portfolio. So.
Y'all should see the setup that we're sitting in right now. I walked in the room and I was like, oh.
Look, we got a bike mechanic in the living room. We got a studio here in his studio, so it's definitely a win situation. So yeah, and I know the original ride was 5 women, and ironically, did you realize that there were going to be 5 women doing this?
Initially, it was not going to be 5, but at the last minute, about 3 weeks ago, we dropped down to 5. So yeah, it is that. I think that's what also makes this very special, because now we already felt very connected to what their experience could have been like, but now it's like. I know for me, I've been riding in the back most of today. My brakes were shot. But, and I'm looking out at the 4 women in front of me, and then there's me, and I'm like, wow, I wonder if this is what it was like, when they were riding, or, just sometimes you have those moments of what if, and I wonder. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want to get too deep into the conversations. Again, I'm going to remind you, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. But I do want to keep this live pretty short, just because I want to get everybody in. But there is a moment that we had as a group, and then also I got to share to the community, where you came out the room, you're just emotional, you're like this emotional wreck. I'm like, oh shit, this is over. But no,
I thought it was over too.
It was like, we're done here, we're all moving to Delaware, call your jobs. No, but you came out, you shared some really great stuff. So if you haven't checked that out, once this live is done, make sure you go look at the last post. But can you just talk about that moment for folks that, whatever.
So, I think going into this, when I think about why I even wanted to share this with folks in general was because I wanted to inspire other people to go out on their own sense of adventure, just like these 5 women did. Because storytelling is powerful. I mean, with the work that you do with Perfect Time and Multisport, how powerful storytelling can be. And so, a lot of times when we hear about these types of adventures and things, it's always beautiful and everything seems like it was great, and you don't always realize that no, some of these adventures have major shit happening in the middle of it. Right. And I mean, if I'm being honest, first of all, it's already been hard because it was raining since 2:00 yesterday. And then we woke up to a bunch of rain, and you look at the forecast and it's a bunch of rain, and then you look at tomorrow and it's a bunch of rain, and so it's just a buildup of wow, this is totally not what we had hoped for or expected. And then we had 2 crashes earlier today. Some folks slipped on some train while passing the trolley tracks. And that just really, it really got to me. And just the emotions of we still have a long day ahead of us, and it's just a compounding of things. And so, I had my moment. And when we talked about leading into this thing, I've said that this is a community, and community is great when it's great, but sometimes people within that community are experiencing real life things, and that's where if we're about community, then we should be able to love up on each other and support each other when we're struggling, or having doubts or whatever it is. And I'm preaching as the leader of this group, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And the truth is, even leaders sometimes have moments, you know, sometimes we're not perfect, sometimes we get emotional. And no, I was not thinking of calling it a quits. Luckily, we don't have thunder and lightning. That could be in the forecast. So I'm very thankful we don't have that, because then that's when the real questions start coming in. But, you know, it was like, I'm going to be honest with my team and let them know like how I'm feeling, and hopefully open up the space for them to let me know how they're feeling. So we can address it and see what we can do together to support each other. You know, sisterhood, community, all those things, they grow stronger from those moments where things get tough and aren't always rosy and peachy.
Yes, I love that. I appreciate that. So I do see a hand being raised, which means we have a question. Again, appreciate you all engaging. We're going to get to this question, but if you have any other questions, comments for Keshia before we wrap up with her, please make sure you drop those before I kick her out. So please, drop.
Where can people meet in DC to support you?
Yeah, so DC is meeting at Althea Tanner Park. It is in Noma, right off of the Metropolitan Branch Trail. Our route as we come into the city is going to pass that trail, so we'll be meeting up there. And hopefully for those who want to ride with us, we'll be going and riding the monuments just like the original tour did. So when they got to DC in 1928, they had a super long day. So they actually rode from Wilmington, which is not far from where we are now, all the way straight to DC. Which, if you know anything about Maryland Hills, we're in for a treat. But they did all that in one day. But when they got there, they toured the monuments, toured the tidal basin, then went up to Howard, toured around there a little bit. So we're going to do a little bit of that by getting a group of folks in DC, riding no more than 10 miles around the monuments, the tidal basin, just as they did, and we'll go back to the park to have a post-celebration of some sort when we get there.
All right. There we go. So I have another question before, as Rob goes to get Courtney. Just thinking about what we've already been through, what is something you're most looking forward to as we get back out there and get on the bikes? Y'all, let me rephrase that. As y'all get back out there and get on the bikes.
I think the thing this sounds crazy. I mean, I have a pretty dope team that I'm with, so I mean, I'm excited about that, but I'm actually excited about hearing about the stories of the virtual folks. There are some teams that are going out today to do their rides and runs and stuff like that, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what you all's experience is like where you are. So please share, tag us, let us know how it's going, what's happening, like, because I know whenever I get a chance, I like to pop in and see what's going on. It kind of gives me like that extra boost and that feeling of like, yeah, I'm with this with my 5 sisters, but like I'm also here with a broader community. So that's what I'm really, really excited about.
I love that. Appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you. Real quick, check in. Do we have any questions, comments? Keshia? All right. I feel like the hearts are just blowing up, but Keshia, appreciate you tapping in.
Sure.
And would love to, Courtney, if you could join the Hussle.
Y'all about to get it preached, so she always gives sermons. So I'm going to step on out the way and let y'all get the good word.
This is about to be a word.
Thank you all so much.
And as I sit here, as this transition happens, I'm like, gosh, Rob, I should have like taken the comfortable seat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right. After all the miles, he wants the comfortable seat.
Oh gosh, but what's going on?
I'm here, man.
You're here.
I'm here.
This is a great place to be. All right. So for folks that don't know you, I feel like everybody knows Courtney, but nobody knows Courtney because Courtney is an amazing human. But Courtney just like sits in the background and is super, super chill. So I'm really excited to share a little bit about Courtney with y'all. So for folks that don't know you, can you just tell us a little bit? I know you were in DC, you're not from DC, you're somewhere else now. What's going on with your life?
So I am originally from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Moved to DC at the law school. Lived there for 5 years, and I'm currently in Rhode Island.
All right.
Increasing their population.
Increasing their population. that could
they're minority population.
Touche. I'm like, that could mean so many things. But definitely want to, as we were thinking about, because, I can talk a lot. I'm like, gosh, I want to do like a full interview, but I also have to be mindful of time. But thinking about this bike ride, as you saw this being shared, like, why did you want to be a part of this experience?
As I said in my interview with Keshia earlier, I'll follow Keshia anywhere. I thought it was a dope idea, but also for me, so I'm in law enforcement. And the entire time I've been in law enforcement, it'll be 5 years in July. And as you can imagine, and as we've all seen, it's not a very good time to be in law enforcement right now. But I will say I recognize that I need to be in the room. I change the conversation when I'm in the room because I look how I look. Mm-hmm. And that makes people shift a little bit, and I'm okay if I'm okay causing that shift because it needs to happen. So I saw this ride. I actually struggled a lot last summer finding a way and finding a voice with everything that was going on because I am kind of on both sides of the everything that's going on. Right. And so I saw this ride as an opportunity for me to have some form of advocacy that would, that was safe in a way. Right. Because it's difficult because I am on both sides and sometimes have conversations that people have. Mm-hmm. Because, sometimes I'm going to see things because of what I do and because of not how I'm forced to see the world, but because of how I see the world, having the training that I have and having the experiences that I have with my job. People aren't always going to agree with that. So I haven't always had a safe space and had safe spaces to have those type of conversations and that dialogue. So I saw this as an opportunity for me to do some form of advocacy. And for me, it's, I said this when I was interviewed with Keshia, it's taking up spaces that we deserve to be in, right, and spaces that need us in them.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. So thinking about, that's why you wanted to come, curious about how you prepared for this experience.
So being in Rhode Island, it is cold. It just started getting consistently warm maybe 3 weeks ago. So most of my training has been on a trainer. Okay. So I bought a bike trainer, and it's been on a hybrid bike because that's what I had at the time. Fast forward though, I'm very lucky and happy that I did training on the hybrid bike because it made it that much easier if you want to switch into the road bike. Right. So I just been, getting on there in the mornings. I use Peloton sometimes to do some, simulate the hills because we just don't have that many hills in Rhode Island. But just, I was gonna be sitting at home watching TV anyway, so I just sat on the trainer and worked out while watching TV.
Makes sense. All right. So real quick, for anybody that's just tapping in, new to the live, welcome. For folks that came and left. For folks that are watching this later, appreciate you being here. But we're just doing a recap of what went down. Not what went down. That seems like a lot more than it actually is. We're talking about the experience from yesterday and leading up to this adventure and what we're looking forward to next. So thinking about, also, if anybody has any questions throughout this conversation for anybody, please make sure you drop them in the chat and we will ask those throughout the conversation. But thinking about what's happening next, I'm curious, what are you looking forward to as we move forward through this experience?
Finishing.
Yes. Is that bad?
It's not bad.
So, I was thinking a lot on this first segment. I was just a moment of honesty and transparency. It has been miserable. And miserable in the sense that, you're riding was, we rode for almost 60 miles of rain yesterday. We started today and it was raining. And anybody that, I ran in the rain. Yeah. And at some point you warm up because just the way you're working your body. I don't warm up in the same way cycling.
Yeah.
And so not only am I wet, but I am now cold.
Yeah.
But I had to remind myself in my devotional time this morning, the message was grateful.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, you're doing this thing and it's so wonderful. And like, not to undermine the training and like how hard we all work to get to where we are. But I recognize that not everybody, I have the privilege of being able to tell my body what I want to do and it does it. And I have the capability to make it do what I want to do, except for singing. I would really like to be able to sing, and I just cannot do that. But I'm privileged in that way, and so, and I recognize that some people can't do that.
Right.
And when I was riding here, I just had to keep reminding myself, what are all the things that you're grateful for? I mean, I'm grateful that I've met a group of people that have exposed me to different things, that exposed me to different types of sports and different things that I just did not know prior to moving to DC, if I'm being completely honest. Thankful for a job that allows me to have the discretionary income to do something like this, because we are grassroots. So, you know, if y'all haven't donated and you can afford to, we would definitely appreciate that. But I also have a job that gives me paid time off, and I have health insurance. And so I'm able to do risky things because I know I can provide for myself, you know, should something ever happen. But I'm also able-bodied. And, you know, my body is able to do these things that I wanted to do. Right. And that's because of, you know, other things that I have. And so I had to keep reminding myself, like, to be grateful in this moment. Because there are people that want to do something like this and for whatever reason or whatever plethora of reasons can't do that. Mm-hmm. But I'm able to.
So thinking about that able-bodied piece, I know you've been dealing with some back, your back has discomfort. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. You need to switch and get this seat. No, I'm just kidding. But I know you've been dealing with some discomfort with your back. So, like, how have you been getting through that? And yeah, how's that process been?
Anybody that knows me, if I'm training for something, I'm going to get injured. And if somebody's going to have a clumsy moment, whatever that moment looks like, I am going to be the first one. And all of those have happened today. Doing this ride, I have fallen. I'm dealing with a hip and a back issue. Luckily, I have a very high pain tolerance.
Okay.
And so I can, you know, part of this process, honestly, because I'm newer to cycling. I mean, I had done a century before training for this, but I kind of hopped into it, if I'm being honest with you. I was training for a marathon, I got hurt, and that was like my substitute. But a big part of this has been learning to train my mind. Particularly, and you can attest to this, riding on a trainer for majority. I mean, I did 90 miles on a trainer that weekend on a trainer. And just to give you a picture, I ain't going nowhere. And I'm in my house. And I can always at any time get off and just be like, I'm done. You know, when you out on the trail or you ride, and just at certain points, that I still gotta get home. Right. No matter how it may look ugly, but I still gotta get home. Now I was already there. I could have just quit, took a shower, and sat on my couch with some sweats. But training my mind to continue with this, and for me being the type of person that I am, I always want to be supportive and be there for my team. One of my biggest concerns when I was talking to Keshia about this ride very, very early on was, can I maintain the speed, and the endurance and the stamina to be, not only to keep up with my team, but to be there for my teammates when they needed that extra push. So I pushed through the pain. I guess. So
you've been pushing through the pain. So real quick, as we begin this transition and Rob gets Alissa, if you have any questions for Courtney, any comments, please make sure you drop them in.
Let me shout out our awesome PT though. We do have a physical therapist here. Let me tell you, you got to get you some well-rounded friends. There be knowing things that you don't know how to do.
Thanks.
So shout out to Rihanna. She has been a heaven sent. You know, as athletes, we all kind of got ideas on how to fix certain things, but it helps to have somebody that actually has that technical knowledge and actually know what they're doing, to be honest, to kind of look at you and give you an assessment. So that has been helping me deal with it as well.
Appreciate that. Yes, Dr. Brianna Hurd in DC. I forgot Rose Therapy, I believe.
Yeah.
So shout out to her. Speaking of shout out to Jesse from Run for All Women. See you showing love. I don't see you. My crew sees you. Like, yo, when I'm doing a podcast, I don't get none of this. Like, me and Daniela, we setting our camera up, and that'd be it. Now we got a whole crew behind here. We got lights, we got studio. This is lit. Rob, I'm coming here every week, bro. Nah, but thinking about that team, what are you looking forward to as we finish this up? You said finishing, so I'm sorry about that. Let me switch the question. What have you learned about yourself through this experience so far?
I'm gonna be honest with you, and I say this very, very humbly. I knew I could do this ride, because of the training I put in, and because we did a double century, and I felt good afterwards. As far as I felt like my body was prepared for it. But what I am honestly really grateful at seeing, and it has been probably the most powerful part of this, is seeing everybody else. Yeah. We all have varying degrees of time and experience in cycling. And so there are a couple of us, I mean, I still consider myself fairly new to cycling as well, but there are a couple of us that have never, our training plan was their start into cycling. Or the most they had a lot of firsts throughout our training plan. So seeing that, and also we had a young lady yesterday with us from QRT, and that was her first century. Yeah. She did it with us. She did 120 something miles, and she did it in the rain. Yeah. And that was amazing. And I was very grateful and privileged to be able to be in that space with her. And she didn't complain a lot either. She just did it. I mean, she got muscle cramps and she muscled through it. Seeing that, but then also seeing, the people that are with us virtually, the people that are doing the challenge, the people that are just showing up and giving us so much support. We may not be able to check, the stuff on social media as we're riding, but it's felt and it's appreciated. I've had family call me and check in on me. And even my baby cousin, I think she can sense there's something that's happening. Because she has been not uber excited all week. But she has been on 10 every time that they've called to check in on me. And she crawled for the first time yesterday. And as much as I hated to miss that, I felt like she was doing it with me. Yeah. In some way I inspired, she probably has no idea what's going on, but she's 6 months. But in some way I inspired her to get that crawl together because she was doing this little scoop thing for the longest. Yeah. But having that has been one of the most tremendous thing, and just seeing people that are doing it in the rain with us. Because, they got 6 days to do this, 9 days to do the challenge? 9 days. So they could have just been like, you know what, I'm going to do this when the weather gets nice and, double up on my efforts or whatever you may have it. But they're doing it with us, they're doing it in the rain, they're muscling it out, and they don't have to. Yeah. But they're doing it to support us, and it's felt. So shout out to our supporters. It's definitely appreciated.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right, I'm about to wrap this up because she got me up here ready to cry. Right. This is not the time for that. Y'all know I'm a little emotional.
The good thing about yesterday was if we was crying, nobody would know because it was raining so hard.
But hold up, let me make sure. I don't want to mess up the studio. Courtney is all leaning back. That's how you know she's saying her so long. But listen, shout out to what is it? Hands-free _ JZC for coming through to the live. Definitely appreciate you for being here and dropping in the comments and showing love. So I think we're all done with the questions right now. So I'm just go ahead and switch this transition. Again, appreciate you. Looking forward to a more extended conversation with everybody that's participating in this. I'm not going to be doing that, but there's more to come about that when Daniela comes up. So, Courtney, thank you.
All right. And thanks out the ship. I don't know if anybody shouted out ship, but he has been here for us before this. He's been holding it down on support. He's been holding it down with the content. And let me just tell y'all, we rode into Philly last night, and we got to this one part where it was like, I guess it was a highway-ish and coming off the ramp. And all I can hear is like horns just going. People, I mean, laying on them. And, you know, as a biker, you just assume it's you the cause of it in some way. And so I look back just to kind of be able to shout out to the people in front if we needed to do something to change our formation. And it was Ship and Rob holding up traffic for us.
Listen.
And that, to have that, the peace of mind is nothing else. I knew that, and I kept telling them, it's them behind us, so we're good. Like, even though we could hear it, I knew it was y'all. Yeah. And I knew y'all was going to take it, and we were tired, we were going slower, we were lost.
Going to the wrong damn hotel.
I'm going to tell everybody, I put in the wrong hotel, we were lost. But just to know that we had y'all, and y'all were going to take whatever it was, and just, again, that peace of mind took a weight off of us that may have been there otherwise in the midst of all the other stuff that had happened to that point. Yeah. So, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Rob, for supporting us in that way.
If you know Philly, we were down Frankfurt and Aramingo, so I was like, this is about to get crazy. I just need to, I swore I was about to fight somebody in the way people were like riding up on us. And somebody's honking the horn. I'm honking back. I'm like, you're in a rush? It was about to get a little sketchy, but we're here. So again, appreciate you. So there's questions being had in the background, but as Alissa comes up and Courtney is dismissed, we had to get Alissa up from her nap. And you're about to see what I'm talking about.
Full auntie mode.
Full auntie mode. Let me wipe these tears out that were not supposed to be happening. Please come. Let her have a moment, and y'all just take it as we've been like taking this. What's going on here?
I'm in my house. That's why I got my house coat on.
Yeah.
And my slippers. But
all right. So are you done riding for the day, or what's happening?
I still got my jersey on. I still got my shirts on. No, we going back out. That's the plan. We making it work.
There you go.
But I will be in my house coat while I'm in my house. Because that's what my grandmama taught me.
All right. Okay. I respect that. And again, thank you to you and Rob for opening up your doors to us. But
Keshia was trying to have us stop at a gas station. So Keshia, I'm right up the street, just a mile. Now I didn't tell them that the mile
was all uphill,
but that didn't matter. I had snacks, I had bathrooms. We were warm. I turned on the heat for y'all.
You did turn on the heat.
I don't turn on the heat for nobody.
I mean, it's like 50 in June though, so. It should have been on. That's something we need to talk about when we go.
I turned on the heat for y'all. My sister was like, turn on the heat. Shout out to my sister.
Yes.
Shout out to my sister who has barely slept. She works overnight, went to sleep at like 3 Friday, probably hasn't slept since. Thank you so much, Terry. Like, I love you to death. Thank you.
So not only did you come, and I'm curious to figure out why exactly you wanted to be a part of this. And real quick, can I get you to scoot up a little bit? We got the lights, and like, I'm not paying for this, so I don't want to be breaking lights. I was just like, it's people. So not only did you come and be a part of this, but you you pulled in your husband, as y'all see. Y'all may not see, we had this camera set up in a really cool way.
Yes.
But pulled in your husband, but you also pulled in your sister to be a part of this experience. So
Yes.
I'm curious, why was it important for you to come, and then why did you feel like it was important to include them as well as part of this experience?
Yeah, so when I'm going to say this, and I've said this a million times, I would have never done this at all in a cajillion years if Keshia did not ask me. If I saw this on a regular IG post or Facebook post, I'd be like, oh, that looked nice. Scroll past, scroll left or right, the negative one, whatever it is. But when Keshia was like, oh, I'm thinking of doing this, it's going to be great. Like, we're going to empower women. We're going to, do this adventure. She's like, you want to do it? Yeah, I've never rode past 5 miles on my bike in my life. Never. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm just getting on the bike and we're gonna make it work over 3 days. Yeah, I can do this. Mm-hmm. And it was because she asked me, and I knew that she had faith in me that I could do it. And I always want to be there to support my friend Keshia. We've known each other since high school. Yeah. We've, reconnected and been there for each other ever since. And it's just one, coming out of 2020, I was like, listen, we gotta live life to the fullest. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe she asked me before 2020, I'm like, nah, girl, I ain't doing that. But like after 2020, I'm like, listen, I'm doing everything. Yeah. And it was just great timing. And to your second question. I'm
gonna get to the second question. Okay. I'm remembering that, but I definitely want to stick on the Keshia part for a second. What is it about your relationship with Keshia that is like made you want to come out and do something from riding your bike 5 miles to 250 miles? That's a 245 mile gap. If you're bad at math, that's 255 miles. All right, so what is it about Keshia, the person, that made you want to be a part of this car?
Keshia is just a super inspiring person. Like, you see her passion about just wanting to support women, wanting to empower women, and everything she does is with that philosophy and thought in mind. And I thought, how is there a way that I can support it? So I'm not doing the role that she does with like Run for All Women and being an ambassador and being on her lead there. But I can do this. So it was like a way for me to help her in her efforts and in the way that I know that I could and that I've been blessed with. So just like for me myself, I've been an athlete all my life. So physically I felt like, okay, this is something I can learn to do. And I am going to do it with my friend.
Yeah. So not only doing it with your friend, but getting back to the original question, you're doing it with your friend, these group of strangers who I would assume are now going to be your friends, but
right.
You have your lifelong partner as well as your sister. So why was it important for you to include them in this experience?
And as soon as Keshia told me, she was like, yeah, we're probably going to need to do this and this and that. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get my sister. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, just sign her up. She was like, you didn't even talk to her yet. I was like, my sister has been my biggest supporter since day one. Whatever I do, she is there, what day, what time, whatever it is, she's been there for me, and I cannot thank her enough for just always supporting me. And then the second part, like me and my husband, we're like husband and wife, but like this is my partner. Just like we support each other in everything we do. And so just like his photography that he does, shameless plug, the real Rob Blake photography, if you need all your photography needs. But back to the other point, but we support each other. So just like I support him in that, I was like, hey, I'm doing this. I knew he would support me, like no questions asked, because that's just what we do for each other and everything that we do. When I do bodybuilding competitions, he's there at every show. He's making sure I don't eat cookies and stuff that I'm not supposed to eat, things like that. Like make sure I'm training. So whatever we are doing, like we support each other. So it was important for me to have him there too.
So thinking about the supporting each other piece, what has supporting each other from the standpoint as a cyclist amongst the other cyclists? Like how have you shown up to support your fellow cyclists, and how have they shown up to support you along this journey?
Man, support is extremely, extremely important, right? And whether it's just, cracking a joke and just like bringing that energy back into the room, just like doing things that we feel as though it's just going to help the entire group. It's like, oh, you going to the store? Like, can you grab me that? Sure. Like, hey, watch, like helping each other on the road. being eyes for each other. That's so important. And if someone is being selfish and not doing that, it just creates danger for everyone else. So we know how important it is to really be there for each other while we're on the road, making sure that we're keeping everyone safe. Cracking jokes, being there for each other along the way, being a shoulder to cry on, a hug, or whatever it may be, just getting all of that in there.
Okay. All right. So we're continuing to talk about support. Like, how has support shown up? Not necessarily a shameless plug for myself, but like, how have I been doing? No, but how has support shown up for you throughout this process?
Man, we have the best support ever. Like, I cannot even imagine in a million years doing this without you guys. From like Courtney just mentioned, riding up with us, like trying to keep us safe. Helping us to tell our story, right. Helping us to get all this information out to other individuals, just being like just little things that just makes it so much easier. So all I have to focus on is the 250-ish miles, which again is not a small feat, but all the things that I don't have to worry about allows it to make it easier for us to finish the ride, which we are going to do. We're going to finish this ride, no question. We're doing it, like that's what's happening. But you guys are just making it so easy. So shout out to you, Mike Ship. Shout out to Bree and to Corinne. Shout out to again my sister. Shout out to Rob. Shout out to Janine. And Keisha's sister and her son. She brought her son out. Like we just had so much support and love on this journey. And it's been amazing, and we cannot thank you guys enough for just encouraging us.
Yeah. So thinking about the support piece again, we as folks, we talked about it a little bit. We had some bike issues, and that's essentially why, like, hey, let's shift it a little bit and let's allow people to come in. And one of those people we allowed to come in, or rather asked to come in, was a bike mechanic. So shout out to my guy Al from KRT, Al_Bunny. He's in here somewhere, but definitely make sure we give him a highlight. As we're doing this, we're in Delaware. I'm like, bro, we had some issues with bikes. Who can you connect us with? He got on a bunch of group chats. He got us a bike mechanic. The bike mechanic showed up.
Thank you.
All great things. So appreciate you, Al. Shout out to folks from KRT. Definitely having that community and allowing us to support the riders as they're finishing up.
Yeah, and just if I can jump in, like the bike community has been so supportive in this entire journey. That's one thing that I found out, like as a biker, that feels a little bit different than like the normal athletics that I do. So like as you mentioned, KRT, Kings Roll Together, and QRT, Queens Roll Together, like just them coming in early in the morning, doing the ride with us, just encouraging us and like you guys are doing good, you guys got it. Like just those words really, really were great. And I've had so many different experiences because for some reason my bike just always wants to do something weird, and I've been on the side of roads and people are like, hey, we need help. Right. I've had other cyclists like help me change my tire and figure things out. I've had just strangers come up and like, hey, like, is there anything I can do? You need me to hold your bike while you're fixing these things. So it just feels really good to have that support, and I just feel like just so blessed in all of that.
It feels like you're going to be able to finish strong.
Definitely feel like I'm going to be able to finish strong with that support.
I love that. So as we talk about finishing and get prepared for this transition to happen, as Keshia goes to get Regina for me, I'm curious, thinking about finishing, how do you envision just finishing this 250 miles, or rather, let me rephrase the question. What are you looking forward to most as you finish the adventure?
Ooh. That requires a deep breath, because I will be honest with you, Chip, last night when we got back to the hotel and I took everything in, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like it felt so heavy. Yeah. And then I realized we still have another 150-ish miles to go. And I was like, I don't know if I could do it. It's so hard. It's raining. It's dark outside. We're trying to navigate. We don't know the area that much and places that we're going. Like, it's so scary. And I was like, I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
But it was because of the support. It was because of my husband and my sister. It was because of Keshia's sister and Keshia checking in on me and Janine checking in on me. Like, just saying, like, you are the strongest group of ladies who are able to do this. You can do this. This is why you're in this position. And as he was like, whatever you need me to do in order for that to happen is going to happen. So I'm doing, part of this is for everyone who believes in me, who knows I can do it. Because sometimes you don't know what you can do, but other people see it in you. And that's a blessing right there. Like, sometimes you doubt yourself, but it's like, no, I know you can do it. And you're like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. House code and all. So I'm looking for house code and all. But I'm really looking forward to just continue to create this legacy, to continue to share this story in ways with other women and other individuals, and I'm just wanting to continue that legacy. That's really what's the greatest thing about finishing. When we finish, as we finish, we are going to finish.
I love it. Again, appreciate you, waking up from your nap, with your eyes coat on, to join us and just update folks that are watching this again live or at a later time. And look forward to hearing more of that story when the time comes.
Thank you, Ship.
All right. So we're rolling right along. It's just staying on brand with this cycling journey, rolling right along and almost wrapping up with the community and the group that's doing this ride. So I have our next rider that's going to join us in the very comfortable seat. If she don't hurry up and get here, I'm going to have to just take her seat from her because my back's on her. But good. We're still in the morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. How are you? How you feeling?
I'm feeling very loved and very peaceful, and I'm laughing a lot.
All right.
I'm having a great time.
You're just smiling the whole time. And I love that. I love the energy you've been having. So to be honest, between you and Alissa, I know the least about you. So for folks that also don't know about you, can you just tell folks, one, what's your name, where you're at, where you're from, and let's start with that.
Okay, so my name's Regina. Hi everyone who's watching. Much love. I live in DC. I've been there for about a decade. But I'm originally from Maine. So
okay, all right.
Wonderful mountains of Maine.
There you go. And how long have you been riding your bike?
So I've been riding my bike for a really long time, many years, but never like this.
Yeah. All right.
It's my first big trek.
So when you say many years but never like this, what type of riding are you typically doing?
I would do, so before all my training, with this training I did my first century, I did my first back-to-back century, I did my first 80 miles and everything in between. Mm-hmm. Before Major Knox, I'd done maybe I'd biked from DC to Harper's Ferry, which is 80 miles, and I did it in 2 days, right. Or I would do 20 miles, 40 miles, but that was about it.
That was about it?
Yeah.
So what has this experience been like for you? Wait, before I talk about the experience, what has it been like for you? Why did you even want to sign up for this?
Yeah, so a good friend of mine told me about this ride, and to be totally honest, the reason why I wanted to do it was because when I heard about the 5 women who had done it in 1928, I was just immediately just blown away by the many layers of consideration about what it meant for them to do it.
Yeah.
And so I also someone's feeling a little love. There we go. I also for me it was about equity and racial and social justice and being part of that and taking up space in a very peaceful way, and in particular doing that on a bike, where I know from my friends who are black and brown and just really getting into biking, what it meant for them. And so that's why I wanted to be part of it. And I'm just so thankful because, another beautiful outcropping of it was I learned how to become a better technical rider.
Okay.
And so there's just been so many gems.
Yeah. All right. So thinking about that, I love you telling us why. How have you prepared yourself for this experience?
So normally I'm a runner, so this is it's all been really new for me just to prepare for like biking for such long distances. So I think we started probably in January with training, which is, in DC it's kind of cold. So and I don't have like a way to bike indoors, so I was out in the winter biking quite a bit, and Keshia was awesome to set up a training schedule for us. Awesome. So I really tried to stick with that, stay hydrated, no alcohol, eating really well, eating a lot of food, and it's worked out. It's worked out really well. And then also learning how to do my own bike maintenance, and again, just getting that technical underneath my belt has been really helpful.
Right. I was just trying to understand what the hell is going on with all these damn car alarms right now. Like, how rude, do they not understand we're trying to like record a damn live interview?
We want fireworks, not cars.
Gosh, right. But thinking about the
live. We are live.
We are live. So thinking about these unexpected things that are coming up, like I said before, this interview is unexpected. Yeah. These questions that I'm asking, they're unexpected. So if you're like, I don't know what to ask, neither do I. So let's figure it out together. But no, on a more serious note, definitely feel free to just engage with us. And if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please make sure you ask, because we're doing this for you. So if you're not engaging, we're wasting our time. But thinking about the experience, like, what has it been like to all the people, the 4 other women that are riding the whole journey with you, did you know them before this?
I knew nobody.
All right.
Yeah.
So what has it been like to like build that relationship with them throughout this process?
It's been amazing. People's personalities unfurl as we all get more comfortable with each other. And I've done like 2 other adventures previously with people that I didn't know. And I just find that process to be so fascinating and curious. I love people, and I just figured, thinking about like who's going to be what role within the small community, who's going to help each other out in different times of need. It's just been really fascinating, and I love the women that I'm riding with. It's been incredible. It's been such a joy.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I do know Instagram keeps us at a pretty tight timeline, so I don't want to, have it shut down on us before we get everybody in. But thinking about as we're looking forward to finishing up the journey, like, what are you looking forward to most with finishing up this journey? I just worded the question. I asked it again. What are you looking forward to most?
I'm just looking forward to, finishing strong with the intentions that we keep setting every single day. That grace, that joy, the respect for one another, the respect for the women who did this, having fun, crying if we need to, just really being ourselves. I'm looking forward to like bringing all of that with me when we finish, and then just, giving a big hug to all the women I'm riding with.
I love that. So, again, we're definitely going to have an opportunity to learn more about, yourself, learn more about just your energy. Like, I was talking to Rob, photographer. Make sure, again, you follow Rob. And we were saying how you're just always smiling. You just have this amazing glow. You have this great energy. So definitely love that. Appreciate you being a part of this. As folks go to get Daniela, as we wrap this up, are there any last words that you want to share with the folks watching?
Yeah, again, thank you all so much for all of your support. It really means a lot. And, in the spirit of the 5 women, make sure to get out there, move your bodies, encourage other people to do that with love and with respect. Every day is a joy, and, things like this just really help remind us that every day is a gift. So get out there and have fun.
I appreciate it. And for folks that want to connect with you, follow along, I know you're doing a lot of work in the DC area. Yeah. How can they do that?
Absolutely. So I'm Regina DM on Instagram. It is private, but I'll
my bad.
No. Oh no, please follow me. Please follow me. And then I actually run a nonprofit where we recover surplus food. So if you want to get involved with another way to help your communities all over the country, it's called Food Recovery Network, and we'd love to have you as part of our community there.
All right. Well, again, appreciate you. Thank you for sharing part of the story. Look forward to hearing more. But thinking about that, hearing more, here's a person that's going to be doing that at a later date. Daniela, my favorite person. I am a little biased with this. She is definitely my favorite person, my go-to person in life. What's going on?
Hi, everyone.
You're looking all good.
Thank you.
All right. Interview over, y'all. No, I'm just kidding. So, how are you? How you feeling?
I feel the way I did when I started, which is more excited and like excited with the blurred lines of anxious. And every mile, every 5 miles, every 10 miles, every 20, every 50, every 100 has been just like super grounding and super exciting, but also super powerful to do it with just incredible people. So I can't help but feel great.
All right.
But a lot of the time I've been feeling great, cold and wet.
Yes, it's been cold and wet, and it's like I was saying before, like it's so hard to train for something like this. I know personally as a cyclist, when it's cold and wet like this, I'm not going outside. So I just commend. I don't think people really understand the gratitude and just what's going on, because not only are they doing it, but the conditions are terrible. They're terrible. They're not like the racism that the folks in 1928 had to face, but they're really bad. And also, not even going to talk about that. It's not the space.
Pin it for later.
Pin it for later. If you want to talk about it, it's out of the deal. We could definitely have a conversation. But yes, I definitely just want to highlight just the work that you all are doing and just getting through it. But thinking about the preparation for that, like, why was this something that you felt like you wanted to do?
I'll be honest with you, I've participated in several events and several gatherings, and just a lot of the things that Keshia has done give me the feeling that I always enjoy having, and that is feeling welcomed, feeling good, feeling seen, feeling supported and uplifted. But it also is about the community, it's about the legacy, and it's about how we show up for each other when things are hard. And I'm really proud of the way that we've been showing up for each other, because the weather conditions have turned this into a more challenging event for all of us, and ultimately it's made easier, it's made better, it's made exciting, it's made fun by the company that we have every mile.
I love that. So telling why, how it's been. How's your training been leading up to it? I'm curious about that.
So my training leading up to this has been a lot of, I'm working towards doing Ironman Maryland in Cambridge.
What's that?
It's a triathlon that's 140 miles, 0.6. Is it?
140.6.
I always forget what, the last digits are, because I'm like, let's do the math, and I'm really bad at that. But this has been an incredible way to reach a level of fitness before diving into the rest of the training.
Right.
And the way that it's looked over the winter, it's been a lot of trainer rides, which I really enjoy, because when I get on the road, I've been really able to see, the progress just like very clearly. Mm-hmm. So it's been a lot of interval training and power-based training on the trainer, a lot of like learning what my heart rates are like in specific terrains and how it's responding, learning how my body recovers from hills has been really fun to see some progress. But the training has been really multifaceted. It's not just been bike-based. I swim 3 times a week. And that really just helps me with my breathing. It helps me with a different type of endurance. And I have been doing very small amounts of running. I've been really ignoring my running plan, but don't tell anybody or my coach.
So thinking about that training and preparation for the Ironman, have you been doing that like with a group of people, or has it been like a lot of solo workouts?
Look, I think it's because of the pandemic and pre-vaccines, it's been a lot of solo workouts. That's right. Part of what makes it really challenging, but it also makes moments like this incredibly rewarding. It makes you deeply appreciate the company and appreciate who is with you and how you are with each other when you're training.
So we are going to be cutting short. Well, wrapping up here. As I look behind the camera, I see folks starting to get ready. They're getting their cycling cap on. And these girls are nice too. They're getting their cycling cap on, so the show is about to be back on. But while we're here, and to follow up from the question I asked you about training alone, like what has it looked like? What has it felt like to train alone predominantly, and now be in this experience, now be in this journey with a group of not only these 4 other women, but like the support crew as well? What does that felt like for you?
It feels like an immense level of gratitude, but I think also part of the feeling has to do with like our intentions around the ride and how we've centered it around sisterhood, around community, having grace for one another, because we know these things are challenging. You know, all of the athletes here have pushed themselves in ways that go above and beyond what we ever expected of ourselves at different points in athletics, and getting to share this opportunity where we're all doing that under really difficult conditions yet again really shows people's true colors. And what I have experienced of that is that our colors are beautiful, our energy is beautiful, and we are really, really there for each other as we ride through the fun and beautiful, and then as we ride through the challenging and choppy. Right. So that's really been a point of sincere gratitude and just like immense joy. Nature can be really beautiful, but it's really made much better when it's in beautiful company.
All right.